Hello everyone and welcome to this Alps Connect Interactive webinar. My name is Sue McGregor, and I'm going to be taking you through the overview of Connect Interactive. So the purpose of today really is to start looking at some of the tools that are available in Connect Interactive and how you might use those to get the most out of your analysis. I'm going to say at this point that I am going to use predominantly Key Stage 5 data, but I do have some Key Stage 4 data available so that we can just see some of the tools that are more particular to that key stage. I'd like to think that you're watching this webinar to get more of an understanding of Connect Interactive, to look at subscribing to it. If you are in that category, you may already have reports and you may be using paper Alps reports, or you may be brand new to Alps altogether. If you're in the latter category and brand new altogether, let me just say that the Training Hub, which I'll show you where that is later on, the Training Hub has got lots of other webinars in it with methodology, target setting, etc., etc. Please do watch those because I'm not going to go into the methodology. So I'm really just looking at, you're familiar with Alps here, and this is what Connect Interactive can give you more than the reports. You might also be watching it because you're a data manager and you just want to see what Connect Interactive does, and therefore how you set up Connect Data might impact on Connect Interactive. Great. I'm going to take you through all the different tools and the functionality across the different levels of the layers of Connect Interactive. So why choose Connect Interactive? Well, I'm an ex-deputy head, and in my job every day I pretty much used Alps. We didn't have Interactive a couple of years ago, but we used Alps in our sixth form. And for me, it was about the simplicity of use, really. And with Connect Interactive, that becomes even greater. If you've got some monitoring data that you've collected this week, for example, and on Monday morning, you want your data manager to pop that into Connect Data, then you can see that by Monday lunchtime. It's instantaneous, in other words. Your results day analysis is available the minute that you pop it in. So it's very smart and very quick. Once the data is in there, you can see it immediately. I'm going to come back to the thermometer and how easy that is to use, and how staff that I worked with found that quite a powerful little tool in a moment. The high expectation aspect of it is really about the sort of the target setting and that aspiration. And again, that webinar on target setting is for you if you're brand new to that system. Monitoring accuracy, I will talk about during the demonstration. And just bear in mind that the idea is that it's accessible to all staff. So your teaching staff can all log in to Connect Interactive and see their analysis for themselves and do all of their modeling for themselves so that they can have the most impact with the students sitting in front of them. So this is a little flyer that we put together to kind of summarize all of that. And just let me talk you through a couple of these things before I take you into Connect Interactive. So what can you do with Alps reports and Alps analysis? Well, you can do 3 levels of analysis. I know there's 4 there, but let me explain. So strategic analysis is top level, how's the school or college progress looking? So you've got some strategic indicators that will tell you how overall, on average, your students are doing against the national database. At the subject level, then, you can do the same thing. So each of your subjects is broken down and compared to progress in that subject nationally. And then if you so wish, you don't have to, but if you so wish, you can put teaching sets in there. And so right down to your subject teacher, you can do the modeling and the analysis that we're going to show you today. All right. The final area is your students themselves and how they're doing in all of their subjects. So a kind of horizontal look across your year group, and being able to compare how they're doing in one subject as opposed to another subject. I'm going to show you all of those, okay? Just a word about the thermometer. For me, this is one of the most powerful bits of Alps. I worked with a whole range of staff, and some of them are loving the mechanics and the mathematics behind the calculations. And I think the great thing about Alps is it's really transparent where those numbers have come from. But there are others who are less confident with data. And that thermometer right there in the middle of the page is brilliant, because you don't have to understand the numbers. Somebody does, but you don't have to. And all you're looking at is modeling, again, sliding up and down that thermometer. So that's really powerful, I think, and it makes it really simple to basically say to your staff, okay, how do you move from the blue to the black, or the black to the red, wherever you are in your journey. And the tools in Connect Interactive are going to allow your staff to be able to understand that. Quick word about that Alps Grade 3. So the Alps aspiration is to hit that 75% line that you see there, so that if any of your indicators are red, and therefore in the top part of the thermometer Grade 3, it means you're in the top 25% against the national benchmark, okay? So that's the whole sort of philosophy that underpins Alps, and it all hinges around setting students that aspirational top 25% target, which we call the minimum expected grade, or MEG. I'm mentioning that because you're going to see it in Connect Interactive in a moment. Okay, so what can I do? So I'm going to show you today some of these little tools. So we're going to look at modeling, and we're going to ask some questions on, okay, I've got these Alps grades for my subjects. How do I move my subjects up the thermometer? How many student grades is it going to take? Or I could look at it a slightly different way, and I can say, if I move student A, student B, and student C, what's the impact going to be on my teaching or my subject thermometers? And if you are going hell for leather on intervention across the year, then you can very quickly do your modelling and look at the impact that those intervention strategies may be having. So I'm going to take you through all of that, and hopefully you're going to get a grand feel of what Alps Connect Interactive can do. Now then, so just a little bit on the website before we go in. There's some pricing information on there, lots of webinars, as I mentioned, and support for uploading your data, and for using the different aspects of Connect Interactive. There's our website, okay, and right there, the training hub, that's where you're going to find lots of recorded webinars. You see there's a governors one there, getting the most from your January mocks. And then in here, in the top there, log into Alps Connect. That's where you're going to click to get into your Connect homepage. Okay, right then. So I am going to go into Connect Interactive now. So this is my landing page. So this is my homepage. Okay, this is my school, and I've got a little blue lozenge there which tells me the grade point that I'm looking at. Now for grade point, read data point, or data collection point, or data drop, or whatever your terminology is that you use. We're sort of translating it into a grade point term, okay? So if I just pop in there, I'm going to go through this really quickly, and so you can get a feel rather than me explaining the ins and outs, which I do in support videos. I can choose up to 4 different grade points. I'll be swapping and changing those as I go through the demo. And at the moment, I've got a year 13 grade point, and these are my in-year trends for year 13. I've got a November one, I've got a raw mock one, which was an actual raw mock grade, and then a predicted grade from my January raw mocks for year 11. I could add a fourth, but I'm not going to, just so you can see the screen more clearly, really. Okay, here are my areas then. So that's the headlines. There's my subjects and there's my individual students, and we'll talk about this area later on. Let me pop into subjects first of all, because that's where most of the power lies. Right, 3 grade points then. Here's this is year 13, and here are all my subjects. So I can very quickly see my Alps grade, and I can see by the colors where roughly where they're on the thermometer they are. So that's my overview. If I want my overview to have any comparisons on it, so I might be interested in my gender split in my school, I'm going to add a quick group comparison, male, female, to that. And I'm going to put them all together in one table, and I'm going to be able, for my January outcomes, I'm going to be able to see if I've got any discrepancies in how my boys and how my girls are doing, which in business studies there, look, I do. Okay. My comparisons, let me reset that and just show you. My comparisons are, 3 standard ones, gender, ethnicity, disadvantage, but I can add custom comparisons. For example, in my school, I think I have got, I've only got those. That's because I'm in year 13. I can add different comparisons to my data as I enter it, which I'll show you when I get to a year 11 grade point in a moment. Okay. Now I can click into any subject. So let's click into biology. I'm going to pick on biology because I'm a biology teacher. So here's my biology overview. So if I'm the head of biology, I can then see a table here that gives me my straightforward gender splits for biology over those 3 grade points. I don't have to put my teachers in, but I have done. And I don't have to put my teaching sets in, but I have done. Now I can already see here that B1 and B2 is quite a big difference in their Alps grade. And I might be able to ask some questions around that and get a little bit more information on that. That's my subject page. This is a quick view on your teaching sets. You've got 2 teaching sets. You'll see it's changing up there. B2, B1, B2, B1. B1's black, B2's red. Now I can click onto my teaching sets and do some modeling in there, which I will do in a moment, but let me talk about this thermometer. So that's giving you an overview of the whole subject. If I wanted to look at my gender again, then I can visually see that on my thermometer. So I can see my girls doing slightly less, making slightly less progress than my boys. Okay, reset that. I'm going through this quite quickly, but hopefully it's apparent what I'm doing. Here are my students. So there's their prior attainment, which for a key stage 5 is their average GCSE score. I've ordered it in terms of that. There's their minimum expected grade I was talking about earlier, and there's the grade that I predicted them. Okay. Now then, I've got a little what if tool here. So if I pop on the what if tool, 2 things happen. I get a what if grade, and I get a double-edged thermometer. So I can do 2 things with this. I can start using the how do I question to say, oh, how do I move my Alps grade from a grade 2 upwards? Okay, now it's possibly not quite the best thing to do in this group because it's obviously already a group 2, a grade 2. But if I were to say, how do I get to a 1? It would tell me 10 students need to improve by a grade. I'm going to be Scottish and pessimistic here, but if I were to say, I wonder how much it's going to take for me to drop out of the red, I can also pull that down. Only 9 students to drop by a grade, and that would be me out of the red. Okay, so I'm just going to continue my pessimism for a moment, and I'm going to say to the biology department, really, is that those accurate predictions? What if they didn't get an A star? What if they got an A? Can you see what I'm doing? I'm just using the thumbs or the drop down menu to just do some pessimistic, like, I don't think they're going to get an A, they're not going to get an A, they're not going to get an A. I think you're being too unrealistic. Can you see that's moving down? So there's my transition now. So I've popped out of the red in that class. So I'm being pessimistic, okay, but that's the general idea of this. You can either model up or model down. I'm going to show you that a couple more times. So hopefully I'm going to find one that's a little bit more a bit more optimistic. So that's my what if. I can do that. Okay, so if I go back to my overall, I can go into this black set here. So they're a grade 5. So this is my teaching set 1 B1. There's all my students with the same gender splits, etc. on it. And I can now go into my student tab and I can pop on the what if, and I can do the same thing here. So let's be optimistic here. How do I get this set into the red? 4 students. Oh, that's doable. Oh, right, let's look at my 4 students. Well, if I order them that way round, then I've got 2 A grade megs that are not getting an A, they're getting a B, but actually I'm probably going to be more concerned about the CD borderline. So let's say if I could get these 2 up to a B and just focus on those B grade questions, wow, I could move to a 4. So you can see the idea of how this modeling tool empowers teachers to be able to make decisions about where they're going to focus their intervention and their efforts in class or out of class. I'm going to show you fine grades when I look at a year 11 one, if that's okay. So if we go back to the subjects, then you get the general idea. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start looking at a monitoring accuracy, because my biology department have got a grade 2 at the beginning of year 13, and then they've got their raw mocks was a grade 7, and now they're predicting a grade 2. So I might just have some questions over accuracy of predicting here. So what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to pop into my monitoring accuracy area and I'm just going to explore that a little bit more. I got 2 areas here. I got historical and I've got in-year trends. Now, effectively, what that means is the historical, I can choose any 2 grade points. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose my current January grade point, okay, and I am going to put last year's exam in as the second one. So what I'm going to actually have a look at here is I'm going to have a look at the difference between what did that department get in the summer with a different cohort, I know, but what are they predicting now? Okay, now look at my biology department. So they are predicting a grade 2, but last summer they got a grade 6, and that might be a trend. So that the power of this monitoring accuracy area is you're going to sort of build up that trend to have those powerful conversations. I can do that by I can sort by the highest difference. So probably I've got some real concerns over maybe the top 4 or 5 departments in my school, and I want to have some conversations around their accuracy of predicting. If I sort the other way around, I might have some similar conversations with my BTEC classroom teachers about the other way around. Are you under predicting, or should we be worried? I would imagine your BTEC teachers would come back in January and say, well, that's their current working at grade, and I would expect that to increase. But you know, computer science, you might be a little bit more worried about your A levels there. Now you can select any 2 grade points you want here. So if I just pop back to last year, that was the summer outcomes. What I want to know is, what were my year 13s last year being predicted before they went into that exam? So I'm looking for this monitoring point here. Okay, don't worry about how I've named them. But this was my last year's year 13s before the exam and at the exam. And again, I'm just going to sort by that difference. And can you see that the geography department, I think they were one of the top 4 for over predicting. Look at the over prediction going on in those top 4 departments there. And oh, there's biology again. So I've got some worries, and I'm going to ask some questions around there. Whereas history, look, straight, 2, 3, I'm going to be pretty pleased with the accuracy of prediction in the history department and English, etc. On the other scope, I've got maybe a little bit of under predicting going on in some of my BTECs. And again, that's a different conversation, but still valid to have. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm asking you if it makes sense. You can't respond, but that's the in-year, the historical, sorry. The in-year allows me up to 4 monitoring points. So I'm going to go back to my year 13s. I'm going to keep those 2 grade points on, and I'm going to add my 2 from this year. Okay, I'm actually just going to add 1 from this year. Now, I've added it in there, but I want to sort these so that I've got before last year went into the exam, when they went into the exam, beginning of year 13, January of year 13. Hopefully that makes sense. Okie doke. So eventually it'll load. Now, here's my trend. So what I can do now is I can see how each trend differed from the last one by these arrows. And I've also got a lovely graph. Look at that. So let me click into biology now. So there's my biology department. That's last year's grade, and that's the overall MP1 and MP2. And I know from the monitoring overview, sorry to jump back, that biology, oh dear, that biology over predicted before the exam because they predicted a 3 and only got a 6. So what I can now do is I can take B1 and B2 and do some ticking, and I can say, right, so the teacher of B1 or teachers of B1 are actually predicting that 5, which is probably around about accurate because that's kind of what they got last year. But this group here, wow, really? A grade 1 when they were on a grade 6, the department last year? And it just allows you to ask those conversations, to ask those key questions. So that's the monitoring accuracy area. Hopefully that makes sense. It was a whistle-stop tour. Students, let's look at some students in year 13. So you can see here that you have got some tutor groups. You can filter by the tutor group. You've got prior attainment here. You can filter by that. And the colours indicate the 3 subjects that they're doing. And pink is the lower of 2 split target grades. So some minimum expected grades have an A star A target, for example, so that student's on an A, so they're 1 below their target. Let me show you that. There's their minimum expected grade, A star A, and so these 2 are A's, so they've gone pink. The black is 1 below, and the blue is 2 below. So if we look at this student, then that A star A, A star A star B, so these 2 are going to be red because they're on target, and that B's below, so it is going to be black. Hopefully that makes sense. I can put comparisons as usual onto those, but what I can do this time in this area is put student performance groups on. So I can filter by these various groups. So let me apply that. So this is this is a monitoring point. So above target in all subjects, I've got 17 students. Hooray, well done, keep going. Postcards home or whatever. On or above, yep, happy with you, you're doing grand, keep going. Below target in any subject, you're going to want the physics department to be talking to that student, the chemistry department to be talking to that student, etc., etc. There's quite a few physics there. Look, we might want to isolate physics by dragging it across here and just looking at how my physics students are doing. That's just isolated my 11 physics students into categories. I'm going to clear that and go back to where I was. Oh, I've upset it now. And then the biggie for you really on this student overview is, oh, I cleared that entirely. So let me, oh dear, it's all gone, pear-shaped. This is back to year 11. So what I really want to do with this group of students, let me just put that where we were back onto it, is I want to see who's below target in all subjects. Oh dear, I've got 13. So those are probably not going to be surprises to you, but those are the ones that you want to start targeting. Okay, so that's the student performance overview. Since it was desperate to jump to year 11 there, I am going to show you some year 11 now. So you can pretty much do exactly the same thing with year 11 as I've shown you. I've got 2 year 11 monitoring point here, and let's just put their exams on as well. And then let's pop into the subjects and you'll see that it's pretty much the same. I'm going to jump into maths. And you've got, oh, for some reason that's not populated. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, so let's jump into maths as a monitoring point. Here we go. And you'll see this time that you've got a lot of sets. And so it's actually showing you all the different sets that you've got, and you can jump into any of the sets and you can do all of the what ifs. You can do all of the modeling that you could do in the A-level pages, exactly the same in the GCSE pages. What I am going to show you here is I'm going to go into the fine grades. So sorry, just my student page. Now, if you use fine grades, you'll see I've categorized them plus, equals, and minus. You can do ABC, you can do anything you like as long as it's not symbols, and you can mix and match from A level to GCSE 2 and BTEC. So you've got some fine grades here. You can do some modeling on fine grades. So if, for example, I think that 28 students, or roughly 50% of my students, are going to, who are on plus grades, can be stretched to the next level up, the right-hand side of the thermometer is modeling that, okay? Now, I can be scientific about this, and I can do one of these sliders at a time, or I can do a combination. But let's just assume that some of my at-risk students are going to drop, because last year they dropped. So 50% of those drop, I'm still a grade 3. But if I lose some of my secures as well, then it starts to have an impact on my redness. So basically, that's a modeling tool that allows you to just have a look at what the impact of some of your fine grading might be. At GCSE, then, the one other difference that I want to show you is the student overview. So what we've got here is we've got a little comparison tool that allows you to look at English and maths, met in both, below in maths, etc., etc. If I apply those, then I've immediately got my groupings here. So below in maths, there we go. Below in English, I've got 6 students. Okay, so those now I could export to Excel, and I've got, oh, top of my page, beg your pardon, met in both. I can export them to Excel using the top of my page here, if I can get there. Here. That button doesn't see, oh, there we go. Export to Excel, and then they're in those categories already. There are student postcards. They're probably not got all the information that you want on them. So if you want to generate a postcard, my advice would be export to Excel and then mail merge onto postcards. But as I say, those categories will be retained as you export them to Excel. Okay, what I've failed to do throughout the webinar is to actually say that most of those pages are printable and exportable to Excel, one or the other. Okay, let's reset that. The one other thing I wanted to show you at GCSE was you can, on this custom groups, you can add a custom group that's got a double filter on it. So for example, I can compare my white British boys, so I can put a gender comparison group in, and then I can also add an ethnicity of white British, add that. So I've got my white British boys there. I could, if I wanted to, just put boys in there as well. And I'll show you what this looks like, and we're almost done. Apply that and show them all in one table. And what I can then see, I can see all students, my white British boys and my boys. So I've then got the ability to look across and see how different groups are going. I can add as many of those custom comparison groups as I want to. So I think that's quite a powerful little tool as well. Last bit, strategic. If you're used to Alps reports, you can start with a template, or you can put in individual pages. Let's start with a template for ease. I'm on a Key Stage 4 monitoring point, so I'm just going to put a main provider report in. I can put a comparison groups on if I want, but I'm going to create that report just as it is. And for my monitoring point then, I have got my strategic overview. So at Key Stage 4, I've got a quality indicator score, a QI8 score, red, blue teaching. I've also got some banded by ability information here as to how my different prior retaining young people are doing. I've got my subject value added page here with all my subjects in. All they are there, they are there, etc. And I can save that, or I can print that. So basically, I've got the ability as a monitoring point to see how my school's doing strategically, and then start asking questions about individual subjects. Listen, that was a whistle-stop tour. It's a slightly longer because there's more to Connect Interactive now than there was at the beginning of the launch of it. But I hope it's been instructive. Please do give us a shout if you have any additional questions. We're on training at alps.education. There's lots of different options available. And happy Connect Interactiving. Thank you for listening. Bye.